You wanted to see me?
Yes. I apologize once again for having to play this role in front of you, but the situation was a difficult one, and I could not risk blowing my cover.
I understand. You're one of Dandolo's spies too?
No, I work for my people, even if Dandolo was a precious ally. I was in Ophir to plan an escape, but it was not exactly what I wanted to tell you about. I would like to offer you my services.
You're also a mercenary?
No, I am not interested in serum, and a Technomancer ally, yes. It is rare for mutants to know someone with your talents. So if you need a hand or any information, you know where to find me. And maybe I will ask for your services once in a while.
All right. What really happened with your mother? I must say I didn't understand much. That stone? The police's arrival?
My mother was helping me as much as she could to carry out my mission. She would provide me with information, sometimes hide mutants on the run before they could leave the city. She was a wonderful woman, Zack, but someone turned her in. Fiorello heard and raced to get me out with your aid. Though how I yearned to save her, to get to the slums to warn her. But I knew I could not. You, though, could. The stone was a token of recognition. She knew what it meant. If she was turned in, she had to leave as soon as possible. And if she couldn't, the drawing was made with an ink made of jellyfish venom.
But why give her that poison?
I didn't want her to die, Zack. I loved my mother. But I knew what the ASC would do to her in their jail. If they caught her, she needed a way to avoid being tortured.
When did you discover that you were a mutant?
The first symptoms of mutation appeared when I was very young. I must say that I can't really remember very well. My mother noticed them, and she taught me how to hide the marks, even though I think that I didn't know what it meant. She was hoping to keep me close to her, but as soon as the first marks appeared on my face, they spotted me out right away. I will never forget my arrest, how violent they were toward my mother. I was just a kid. I was sent to one of the farms on the outskirts of town. That's where I learned what it meant to be a mutant.
What's the Mutant Nation? You created it, right?
It is a little overblown, but I was one of its founders, among many others. Of course, other mutants were living outside the city as runaway slaves, hidden here and there, stealing whatever they could find in order to survive. A small community had settled in Noctis and benefited from the hospitality of the merchants, who allowed them to move around freely. However, we did not have any way to defend ourselves or plan a future. We were all spread out. A few of us decided to get together. We found a place, a very unique one, and we soon started doing it up, bringing in equipment and erecting houses. As for me, I especially wanted to free as many brothers and sisters as possible. So I went back to Ophir, and I realized that nobody cared about mutants, especially if they didn't look very smart. I began to help dozens of them escape. And our nation soon began to grow. There are a lot of us now, and I hope that all mutants will be able to live there someday.
What can you tell me about Ophir's mutant pen?
You saw for yourself. Violent slave drivers and harsh work conditions have reduced mutants to beasts, to the point where even some find themselves yearning to be petted. I do not hate humans, you know that, but when I think about that place, I feel outbursts of hatred. I would like to break the walls and see my brothers and sisters get out of that hell. Someday, I think that I'll do it. I'll destroy the pen.
What does Noctis represent for you?
It is the city of our allies. Without it, Mutant Valley would have probably never come into existence, even if some of them think the opposite. This town is welcomed and still welcomes many runaway mutants. Here they can free themselves from the servile state they were in. Noctis is somehow the freedom school for many of them. Of course, it remains a human city, and segregation is sometimes present even if it is not official. And I don't completely agree with Dandolo's decisions, but overall it is a place that I love that boasts of mixing everyone together, of bringing all philosophies into dialogue with each other, and of welcoming the hopeless.
What do you think of Amelia?
She's an interesting young and courageous woman, but Abundance brainwashed her. As long as she hasn't completely cut ties with the corporation, she will remain wary of everything, of anything foreign. I think that she has some pity for us mutants. That's more generous than what humans usually give us, but we don't need pity. We are a new people, not a gang of monsters regretting who they were. Maybe she will come to realize this. She is not stupid, and when it comes down to it, she has a thirst for freedom despite all the brainwashing she went through.
What can you tell me about Andrew?
He is a hurt man. He hides his suffering under a cynical and detached attitude. But he lost way more than his arm, even if I do not know what it is. If you could help him heal his wounds and become what he ought to become, you will discover without a doubt that he is a very giving friend. And maybe he will be less bitter.
What do you think of Nisha?
She's an unusual woman, Zach. She was locked up, tortured when she was a child. She managed to get out of the situation, and despite what she went through, she went back to Ophir under a false identity. Believe me, you have to be strong to do that. She is the best possible spy. She helps us as much as she can by providing us with vital information on the slave transfers so that we can go free them. And I know that Dandolo respects her a lot. But watch out. She is far from being the sweet and smiling young woman you met in Ophir. She is brilliant, generous, and she can also be merciless.
What do you think of Scott?
He's a great scientist, most likely a very good doctor.
Is that it?
Something bothers me about him, Zachariah. No doubt he appreciates you a lot. I learned that he went through a hard time, but I have a feeling that his sweet eccentricity is hiding something. But I don't know what, therefore I won't say anything else.
Hey, there you are. Your meeting go well.
As well as hoped. Thanks.
Then let's get down to business. You know who I am, you know my past, you know what little I have left. What are you gonna do about it now is the question. You gonna use what you can against me? Well, let me carry on with the small life I've managed to build.
I want to help you. What can I do?
Some things can't be healed, Rogue. Like that scar across your face. I'm guessing you got it the day I lost everything. And was reduced to a sad, broken, armless shadow of what I might have been.
Some things can't be healed, but most can be mended, friend. Let me ask around. It might be a long shot, but maybe you'll find a new reason to call yourself lucky again. We'll find someone who can lead you back to your gifts. I promise.
I may be bitter, but I'm no less grateful. Thank you, Zachariah. A little show of kindness goes a long way.
I can't deal with it right now, but when I get a chance, I'll look into it.
That's good enough for me. You'll come see me later then?
Yeah, I'll come find you later. What happened that day?
I had a surge. A big one. One even the Masters never saw coming, literally. Before they even knew what was happening, I electrified everyone and everything around me. It screamed like thunder from my body, before the ceiling itself finally collapsed in on me. I woke up in the infirmary without an arm, surrounded by all those powerful Masters who stood there shaken, whispering, their eyes still filled with fear. And everything went dark again, and I woke up in a sand sail.
What about your gift? I thought people died if they didn't use their fluid.
It's a myth. There are rogue Technomancers out there. Not a lot, but a few. They know how to control their fluid surges. Probably the only thing that piece of shit Marcelo could take credit for. He introduced me to one of those guys, and after that, I learned to control it the hard way. The irony, no? I'll never be a Technomancer now, but I control the fluid better than any of Abundance's masters. Not for power, just to make sure my own brain doesn't fry.
Why aren't you with your family?
Right. My family. They were small-time merchants. I'm sure real proud their son was gifted with Technomancy and was joining the school. But they were also scared as shit of me for the same reason. We're all scared of what we don't understand. It's why so many fear us both. Not that I'm sure any of the masters even asked them to take me back. It was more important to them that I disappear for good, to hide what happened, keep the illusion of their infallibility intact. Also, to hide the fact they had people among them who had the power to take down entire buildings. No, I had to go. In some ways, they even did me a favor.
And you never tried to reconnect with them? Even after you got free?
No, I looked for him. Even tracked down my father. He was just this old man. Didn't even recognize me. And if he did, he'd probably just hate me for what I've become. A crippled outcast. Not something you'd put your pride in. So I let it lie. Just walked away.
What have you been up to since you left?
What have I done? Well, after spending 10 years of my life as a slave trying to pay that piece of shit Marcelo back for what he called my debts, traveled in his luggage hold, did his dirty jobs, whatever he needed to get his business going. Carried crates, drove sand sales, shoveled sand, ran errands, but mostly just picked his customers' pockets. I traveled a lot, though, if I'm going to find any silver lining in it, and I've earned my damn place here in Noctis. Even if the price of that has been rarely sleeping in a real bed or reading a book that wasn't about accounting.
Should have remembered you. Back when we were kids, the world just revolved around you.
Really? How so?
You ever even know the influence you had? How much the other kids tried to be you? How much I did?
The influence was just an illusion. I don't like remembering myself like that. Even if it's right. Feel like I was just another manipulator, though. Manipulating people to get what I wanted out of them. To let them get what they wanted out of me. All just a time I'd rather forget, honestly. If you don't mind.
As a merchant, you must have traveled a lot. What amazing places have you visited?
Well, when I was a kid, I lived in Ophir, a place you probably know better than me. But with Marcelo, the merchant to whom I belonged, we mostly traveled to Shadowlair. He knew a number of Technomancers, including renegades, and used to sell them equipment found by looters. It's an old Baroque city with dirt-poor slums. As strange as it may sound, corporations' big cities all look the same in the end, beyond the few differences they flaunt.
What can you tell me about Noctis?
It's a free enclave in a world dominated by dictatorial corporations, created by merchants in order to facilitate the exchange of goods from everywhere. It's become a place that also welcomes refugees from all walks of life. I love this city. You can find anything you want. Mercenaries, preachers, craftsmen, all kinds of merchants, princes and thieves. And don't get me started on the extensive variety of artifacts from all around the planet. It's quite mind-numbing, but it's the place where everything is possible, far from the yoke imposed by corporations.
What should I know about the Caravanserai?
It's the heart of Noctis, the home of the Merchant Prince, and the place where all the merchants' important transactions happen. That's where they decide on the trajectory of the main cargo routes throughout the planet. Historically, it's also the first place out of the corporation's reach on Mars. I like the place a lot. It's very peaceful compared to other places, and the architecture is splendid. The Merchant Prince has a taste for luxury. I could have spent 10 years there. I bet I would smile a bit more than I do now.
You've known Nisha for a while, haven't you?
Not that long. I've been on the road most of the time for the last few years, and I've run into her a couple times. I've been in Noctis for about a year now. She's a wonderful woman. Courageous, driven. She's ready to risk her life for the city. Personally, even though I love Noctis, I wouldn't do it. She's generous too. But she has her own wounds, like all of us. She's full of anger sometimes. I think she has a few scores to settle. You know that she's from Ophir too?
What do you think of Amelia?
But sometimes the way she speaks would make caravan drivers blush. But she's a great girl. Brave, talented. Too bad about the way Abundance brainwashed her.
What do you think of Scott?
Did you know I met him in Ophir? When I was a kid. He was my family's doctor, but I have a feeling he's gone completely crazy since then. He was already a little strange, but now he's completely nuts. That's too bad. He's a great scientist.
Do you know Phobos well?
Well, kind of. I've run into him several times, yes. He heads a wonderful fight. I truly hope that he succeeds. The corporations have exploited and squeezed everybody way too much. The mutants in particular. It's time for all this to stop. He's a great actor. I saw him play a simpleton with terrific aplomb, whereas he's one of the most intelligent men I know.
What do you know about the mutants?
Which ones? The ones who were locked up, mistreated, considered to be mere beasts by the corporations? Or the ones who live freely on Mars's surface?
I was thinking about the free mutants.
They're almost all former slaves, you know. In the end, there are only a few of them who were born outside the corporations. They managed to quickly build a culture, to make the planet their own like no other human had done before. They don't see the Martian environment as hostile, but more as a land of countless opportunities. They're actually aware of the fact that they will never go back to Earth. It's become their home due to the circumstances. What else can I say? They're courageous, ready to fight for their brother's freedom. Some of them even want to get rid of the humans, from what I've heard, which I can understand. I respect them a lot.
You have it in for them, the Technomancers, don't you?
It's true. I must say that they didn't put their best foot forward last time I saw them. All they managed to do was hide their inability at the price of my enslavement. I love Technomancy, and this extraordinary feeling of freedom and power it gives you. But those who practice it for the corporations have a real issue. Whether it be for Abundance or Aurora, they can't help hiding ridiculous things. Twisted rituals, and keeping a people they despise out of their little schemes.
Maybe there's a reason for it, don't you think?
You probably know better than me, but it doesn't make them look nice.
What can you tell me about the people of Noctis?
We're free to say anything and everything. You still think way too much like a member of Abundance, where the population pretty much has the same opinion. Here, people come from everywhere. Most of them used to be misfits. You find merchants, the offspring of the city's founders, hitmen from Aurora, dissenting workers from Abundance, or beggars from Alliance. This mix sometimes creates problems and tensions, but as long as everybody works together to protect Noctis, all is well.